Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast, the podcast for real estate agents absolutely everywhere. I'm Lisa B, and during this podcast, we're going to be talking about everything real estate. What's working, what's not working, AI, automation, technology, EXP Realty, and absolutely everything to do with real estate. I'll have guest speakers as well, where we'll answer your questions from the Facebook group, Let's Talk About Real Estate. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, make sure you do that now, and we'd be happy to help answering any question. And again, welcome to the show. Welcome to Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast. This is Lisa B, and today I have with me the amazing Kim Johnson as my guest. Thank you for joining me, Kim.
Absolutely. I always love to hang out with you anytime I get a chance.
It's awesome. Okay, so you are the author of the book, Who's Driving Your Bus? A Simple Solution to the Complex Challenge of Managing Your Emotions. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is managing your emotions, how to do that. And I first met you through Tony Robbins, I don't know how many years ago. How many years ago was it? 10, 15?
God, I don't know. 15, 17, long time ago.
I think probably 15 years ago. So you were a coach for Tony back then. We did some coaching together as well. You specialise in coaching real estate agents. So can you elaborate on your career for anybody listening, please?
So my career overall has been very unusual. When I went to Tony Robbins, I was actually running an advertising agency with my husband at the time. And I went to Tony's just to try to better myself and go into it, and then fell in love with the whole idea of self-development and jumped into coaching and was recruited by them to work for them. So I got thrown in full force all the way and just loved every minute of it. And since then, I 17 years with Tony, and then doing it all on my own as well. I've got over 50,000 hours in coaching, one-on-one coaching, as well as I've written 8 books, got a new one coming out shortly, 2 bestsellers, the Bus book being one of them, and just love self-development in any way, shape, or form to be able to show people how to manage their emotions. I mean, that's the key to everything.
Yeah, I agree. So I think you and I are pretty similar. The time that we've known each other, we're very positive. We look for the good in everything. And I think for me, particularly, that was a learned thing. I didn't always do that. It was sort of like something would happen and it's so easy to spiral down, or it's so easy to think, why me? Or, all of those sorts of things. And I think through the many years of Tony, I think I started, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago. And it really got me to look for the good in everything. It got me to manage my emotions a lot better. And we can talk about that later. But let's talk about your book, Who's Driving the Bus? So can you explain the concept of that and how you use it to change many people's lives?
So that book was born out of my own dysfunction. Let me be very clear. I was raised by, I had 2 very different parents. My father was always positive like we are, and my mother was always doom and gloom, very Eeyore-like, the woe is me, anxiety-ridden. So I came up in the middle, and I could go both ways. Mm-hmm. But when I got older into high school, middle school really started anxiety, and no one really could help. High school was horrible. Kept fainting because I would get so stressed out with tests, hospital, all of that. And just got to a point where in my life, my early 20s, where I was just so riddled with anxiety. And fortunately for me, it was the 80s and they didn't give you drugs. So you had to figure it out, and you had to work through it, and you had to struggle through it. So I had to do this, went through Tony's stuff, had some tools, but in the moments that I needed to be able to do it, I still couldn't do it. I couldn't remember everything. So the concept of the Bus book really came from my own struggles and having to think about my emotions as a cast of characters on a bus in my head. And whoever was driving that bus was controlling my experience. So my high need for certainty, always looking for certainty, trying to figure out to be safe all the time, was always driving. So I was constantly running around like a scared chicken somewhere, trying to avoid anything that could go wrong. And it was ruling my world, and then causing me to have anxiety drive. And then, you're always in this judgment place of judging yourself for doing it wrong. It was just chaos. So I had to come up with a way. And the concept of the bus gave me the visuals to be able to figure out who was driving. And then I could consciously ask myself, well, is this driver actually resourceful? Is this who should be driving? Is this really what I want to have happen? And is this threat that I perceive real, or is it just perceived? Is it just something that's fictitious, like, the ghost out there? And it let me swap and choose, swap and choose, swap and choose. So I learned to break my own patterns doing it that way. And then I started teaching my clients how to do it. And then it all came to a head when one client said to me, why is this not in a book? And I was like, oh, and she's like, you need to put this in a book for the rest of the people that don't get to talk to you. And so I did.
So
and
that's like, so the emotions. So if I'm feeling a certain way and I check in and I think, okay, I'm in a fearful state now. So fear is driving my life. Fear is making me or helping me make all these horrible decisions, or not making a decision. And then it gets you to check in to say, okay, what's a more resourceful emotion that I can use that I need to actually get to drive my life and my anything that comes up. So that's, it's great to self-awareness, isn't it? Because you don't realize.
You don't. And it's all patterns from your past. Like anxiety driving my bus was not my choice. It was a learned pattern from my mother. So once I recognized I had borrowed that, I was like, I don't want that. That's not mine. I don't need that. But you don't get it. So the little poem in the book that teaches everybody is like, stop, reflect, choose, redirect. And that's just the easy way to remember it. So you stop, you tell yourself stop right away. You reflect, where am I? What emotion is doing this? And then it's like, once you have that, and it's like, you get to choose, all right, what's next? And then you redirect that driver. And you're like, okay, now if I have faith driving, how is faith showing up right now? How is excitement showing up? How is creativity showing up? Whatever it might be, you choose that emotion and then you move in. You just have to use a high level of commitment and awareness to make it happen.
Exactly. I had during the week, I've like some of the things that I've sort of patted myself on the back for, right, is not letting fear take over in a lot of the places in my life. And so the last month I did a zip line, which I was absolutely petrified to do. I went snorkeling, saw a shark and virtually chased it. They said that the reef sharks are very safe and everything. And I was chasing it, videoing it. I went on a glass platform, which I said I'd never do. And then I'm doing something else this week, hot air balloon, which I've been absolutely petrified to do too. But that was like, it's like, I can't let fear stop me doing things. And so it's sort of this month I've sort of gone, okay, have the challenge of overcoming some of those things that have been holding me back. And I guess it was like a mini fire walk, or the metaphor of the fire walk is like, if I can do that, I can do anything. But that's understanding our emotions and how we're stopping ourselves, isn't it too?
Well, it's recognizing that whether you pay attention to them or not consciously, they are always working. So it's very implicit. It's very behind the scenes. It's like the only way you can really figure it out is to listen to the mind chatter, listen to that dialogue in your head, listen to what it's saying, because those are the clues to who's driving. And once you recognize it, you realize, geez, do I really want to be this person? Is this what I want? Like, and my mind chatter, when I am in a bad state, is always in my mother's voice. Like I can hear it that way. So once I check in with it, I'm like, oh God, what am I doing? I need to stop that right now and shut that down. I mean, it's just, we pick things up and they stick with us.
Absolutely. Okay, so you coach a lot of real estate agents, and as you said, you've got thousands of hours of coaching. So what do you find that most real estate agents need help with in coaching?
Well, first and foremost, they are constantly in a state of reactivity. They are like wired to their phones. They're always in reaction. They always think they're late. They always think they're behind. They never think they're ahead. They don't celebrate enough. I mean, I could go on and on forever. They get a deal. They get somebody that signs on with them. And then they're like, well, I can't celebrate till it's done, until they get to the closing. And then once the closing happens, they've already moved on. So they were like, the second the closing's done, they're like, oh my gosh, I got to get in touch with this person. Da, da, da. They're always like burning out their adrenals. They are not good at managing the high level of awareness it takes to not be like an EKG with their emotions in every moment of every day. So to pick one, I would be short-sighted. It is an identity. And some of them actually believe that it's what makes them successful. And I'm like, no, that's not what makes you successful. That's just how you have been doing it, but that's not what makes you successful. Your tenacity, your commitment makes you successful, but not that part of your identity. Real estate agents are a very unique group of people. And they have one of the highest stress jobs in the world, because you're dealing with people's money. You're dealing with some of the biggest purchases, if not the biggest purchase they'll ever do. You work for nothing until the very end. Everything about it is hard from a standpoint of certainty. It's right up there with being a stock market trader or being an air traffic controller. I've coached all types of people in all types of businesses, and real estate people have that level. And you would think, really, it's up there with an air traffic controller? Yes, it is, because you're managing emotions of yourself. You're managing the emotions of the agent on the opposite side, their clients, your clients, and it's like when buses collide. Everybody's having an argument with things. It's very interesting. It's a very, very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, actually, because I hadn't thought about that. Like when you're in your own world, you don't sort of see how other people would analyze it. To me, it's just the way that we do things. It's just life or whatever. But yeah, it is extremely stressful. You've got people coming at you at all sides, and you're the handbrake between them, making their sale and moving on, and not making the rest of their life happen. And that's the way they see you. So there is so much stress involved. And it is managing your emotions, as you said in your book. And it's also, definitely celebrating the wins. That was something I never used to do. Like, I couldn't smell the roses even. I'd be in the movie theater thinking I really should be at work. And then I'd be at work thinking I really should be at the movies. It's sort of like you don't switch off, and you've got to actually, as you said, plan your day, plan your time off, and reward yourself and realize that you are moving forward. A lot of agents don't do that.
They're constantly in anticipation of missing something. So they fear that missing of something so much that they won't give themselves a break. They sleep with their phone on, and they think, I often say when they're like, well, what if somebody calls me at 11 at night? I'm like, I guarantee you they're not your ideal client. If they're calling you at 11 o'clock at night, they're not your ideal client. You have to accept that. So just let it go. And once you start getting in line with that, and you start owning your own mindset, it's much easier to manage everyone else's mindset when you start owning your own and saying, I'm going to be directive. I'm going to work on what I'm attracting, what I'm thinking about, how I'm putting my brain, my focus. Where's my brain going? Where's my focus going? Much more defined and easy.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so can you share with us? So we've done a lot of Tony Robbins, as we've mentioned. What are some important things or life skills that you've learned through Tony Robbins that's changed your life?
Wow. I mean, it's so hard for me. The time that I went there, when I started in that process, I was hopeful. The very first event I did was the one-day event that he used to do about business. And I did it in the middle of a blizzard in Boston, Massachusetts. I was hell-bent on getting there. And I remember walking in the room, and one of the first things that he said, I'll never forget, when he's like, you are responsible for how you feel. I was like, no, you irritated me. This irritated me. That irritated me. No, you're responsible for how you feel. And I was blown away by that because no one had ever said to me, take responsibility for that before, because everyone looks for excuses externally. And that was probably one of the biggest defining moments right at the very beginning. And then going through and recognizing every event that I ever did, I learned more and more about how my personality, my functionality with myself, like I'm highly visual, and how that left me stuck. Like, when we did good frog, bad frog, do you remember that damn exercise, right? And I was one of the last people out of 2,500 people standing there, still not getting that this was about auditory stuff, not visual stuff. And I was like, I'm losing my mind, right? Because I was looking for the visual. And to this day, it had such an impact on me because I recognize, wow, I have to meet people where they are, not where I am. And that's game changer.
Yes.
It's a game changer.
Yes. There were so many things for me. Like, to me, it was like I've got an instruction manual for my mind. We're not born with that. Our parents don't have that instruction manual, but I found that things like you said, dealing in real estate and people are auditory, kinesthetic, or visual, or whatever. It's a different client. It's a different way that you're going to, a kinesthetic person is somebody that's just says, just help me out and, make sure I'm okay. And, it's not, they don't need to know the facts and figures. They're very much trusting and, just to know who you're dealing with. I think that's great in real estate. But then also, yes, your emotions, just checking in. Why do I feel a bit funky now? What's actually going on? Is it my identity? Am I, not the person that I have been? Is something changed? Am I no longer a wife? Am I no longer a husband? Am I no longer a business owner? Am I no longer, what's changed that we've got to adapt back to remembering who you are and things like that? That's been a big one for me. Identity in certain parts of my life has been a huge one. And that's one that I always, sort of check back in with. But yeah, I just think it's great to have these instruction manuals and, like your book, for people, definitely race out and get Kim's book. I'll put that in the description in YouTube and on my website as well. And you've got a new book coming out, so it's a little bit of a now, and it'll be released very soon.
But you can also go over to the website, and we have a course on, if you go to mindsetwithkim.com, there's a course on there for basic mindset that's free. You can sign up and just understand the basic parts of what's driving you. So that also helps on top of it all. And it's free. Might as well take it. It's definitely helps. Anytime you have the opportunity and the gift to be able to become more aware, you change your life and you will have the ripple effect to change those around you. That's just the way it works.
Absolutely. Now, you wrote a book too, just quickly, Nail It in 90. I just thought of that. So can you tell us a little bit about that as well? Hey?
So that was a long time ago. That was before the bus book. That is still one of my favorite books. It was a workbook. It's set up as a workbook. To take 90 days and figure out what is your outcome that you want to have happen and break it out over the course of 90 days and get it done. There are strategies in there for people who struggle with staying consistent. And that was the biggest thing about that. Like, how do you stay consistent? Because especially my real estate agents that I coach, they are notorious for being all in. And then they're like, I forgot, right?
Yeah.
World over there, gotta go, right? It's having that inability to stay focused for an extended period of time. But I am very much the tortoise, not the hare. I like to be consistent. So I think of it in my head as just the tortoise walking along, do-dee-do, and I'm all getting all these things done. And when I do that, at the end of the year, the culmination, when you tally up everything I've accomplished, it's astronomical because I just remain so consistent.
Yes.
And that's how you do it. And that book is really, it predicates it's like the beginning of that whole experience. And it's all predicated on being consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ultimately, very.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So we're going to do another podcast when your next book comes out, and then we can deep dive into that as well. So congratulations on the new book. I've already seen it, which is quite exciting.
She got a sneak peek.
I did. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Love you loads. And we'll do another podcast
Love
soon.
you right back. All right. Take care, honey. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have a question about real estate, then please join the group on Facebook, also called Let's Talk About Real Estate. For those of you who are interested in EXP, please join us at 10 a.m. Brisbane time every Wednesday morning for EXP Explained. Thank you again for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and see you next week.